Joker is a masterpiece, but it's not for everyone. If you're a fan of movies based on comic books, which traditionally feature a superhero, no, they're a little more heartwarming, they're funny, they're action packed. This is nothing like those movies. It's a very dark story, but it's a masterpiece. It's well put together. Like, fantastic job, Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix, who put on such a masterful performance. Like, when I watched the Oscars, I remember saying to myself, just give it to him. The best actor, just give it to him, because no one's topping that. It's not gonna happen, and it didn't. Like, no one even came close to that. 'Cause, like, how do you even put on a performance like that to actually make me cringe? Like, this movie was very cringy. It was very disconcerting, and it's hard to figure out. Like, it was hard to put together at times, because the narrative is that Arthur or Joker can sometimes imagine things. So, like, by the end of the movie, you don't really know what's real and what isn't, if you were really paying attention to it. So it's not something that's very straightforward. It seems like it at times if you're not paying attention, which is why I had to watch it more than once. But yeah, it can be a little confusing to what's reality in this movie, like what's real. This movie really isn't a continuation of The Dark Knight or the DCU. It's basically a standalone film, because in Zack Snyder's Justice League, we see that the Joker from that movie was the same one from Suicide Squad. So this has nothing to do with that. He actually looks older than that. He looks like he's 40. Maybe he's a pretty old Joker, but it's a origin story nonetheless. In the origin story here, Joker is essentially a product of his own environment. Gotham is a city on the brink of collapse. At the beginning, you can hear on the radio that there's a garbage strike in Gotham, where 10,000 tons of garbage are being produced every day, and no one's really doing anything about it. It's just creating this odor, this horrible smell. Gotham doesn't really look appealing to anyone, and this is affecting everyone. No matter where you live, no matter who you are, it is affecting you. They even have rats infesting the city because of all this trash that they just have lying around. And if you see Arthur walking around, you can see the trash just on the sidewalk. You can see him when he's dancing at the beginning in the clown costume. You see trash everywhere. So Gotham is just in a really bad state. And Joker's past, that you find out that he was abused by his mother's boyfriend, or his adopted mother's boyfriend, and she didn't really do anything about it because she has issues. She has issues, but that's not really a problem due to an economic collapse of a city. It just sounds like a case of a bad mother and her bad lover. Bars. But yeah, even though it has nothing to do with his past, or at least it's not directly stated, or there's no evidence to really support that, but he is a citizen of Gotham nonetheless, and the situation in Gotham is affecting him. People are very rude, people are being very aggressive, and he's always been dealt the short hand. He said it himself in the movie. He's never felt happy a single moment of his life, and he felt his life was a tragedy, and it is. Even though he kind of makes light of the situation and says it's a comedy, his life has always been a comedy, it's a very tragic situation. And he's seeing a psychiatrist. He was in a hospital, and he's seeing a psychiatrist, and that funding gets cut due to the economic collapse of Gotham. So now he has no one to talk to, he has nowhere to get his medication from, and he essentially just has to deal with it. He talks to this guy at a hospital, and he suggests, hey, you should get some help. How am I supposed to get help? City cut my funding. I can't get help. Like, it's a horrible situation. It's a very depressing, dark movie that just isn't happy at all. I don't think there's a single happy moment in this entire film at all. Like, I love how the story, even though it's being told through his eyes, there's so much going on in the background that just connects so well. Like, Gotham is falling apart, and often in situations like you see that the poor often blame those who are better off. And I can see why they would think that. I'm not saying that's never the case, but sometimes it's not the case. Not everyone who's rich, not everyone who's more well off than someone who's in poverty is a bad person. That's not how it works. But Joker kills 3 guys in a subway, and those were bad people because they started assaulting him. I don't really necessarily think they need to die for what they did. You don't need to die just because you're an asshole. Like, there's assholes everywhere. But he killed them because he's been treated like that his whole life, and he just got tired of it. He snapped. We all have our breaking point. And the people of Gotham just sort of start, looking at that and then just blaming the rich. Like, yes, kill the rich, the people that are causing all these problems. And then Thomas Wayne refers to them as clowns. And then, funny enough, he's also wearing a clown suit. So now they all start wearing clown suits, and it just becomes crazy the way everything just falls together. He's just another citizen in the city. He's not trying to be a leader or to be a symbol. He's just someone who's being affected by all this, just like everybody else. But by the end of the movie, he's essentially just the symbol for everything bad happening in Gotham. Everyone's just gravitating towards him as this hero who's just bringing justice, or at least their form of justice, to Gotham, because they're causing like enormous destruction all over Gotham. There's flames everywhere. They break him out of a cop car, and he's just standing proudly over what he's done. I think he was planning on committing suicide on the Murray Show when he was invited on, because his life was just falling apart. Like, he didn't really have a mother anymore. Everything he'd ever been told was a lie. He didn't know who to believe anymore. He didn't have any friends. He got fired from his job, and now he has a gun. And right before the Murray Show, he was practicing in front of his television on a joke he would have for Murray, and ended up with him pointing a gun towards his chin. So I believe he was planning on committing suicide, but he didn't. He ended up reading the words that were at the beginning of the movie, where it said, I believe it said, "I hope my death makes more sense than my life," or something around those lines. And he didn't. He chose to kill Murray instead, and he didn't kill himself. Maybe at some point he intended to kill himself. I don't know. But that's the thing about this movie. How do we know that wasn't all in his head? That's the other way to look at this movie. What was actually real? What actually happened in this movie? Because if you were paying attention at the beginning of the film, he was in a hospital before he was seeing his psychiatrist. And he was bashing his head against the door, if I remember correctly, and he was wearing those same clothes at the end of the film. And there's a lot of confusion about what the ending of the film means, because it's this joke that he's laughing about, but when asked what it is, he says, "You wouldn't get it." So is the joke that all that was in his head and it wasn't real? Like, well, what exactly does that mean? Like, that it's so hard to figure out. I think what it really means is that it isn't meant to be figured out. The Joker is a very enigmatic character. He's not meant to be understood. So maybe it's just that was all in his head, or maybe some parts were in his head. We don't exactly know which parts. Maybe it's that he had to do all those things in order to get the help that he actually needs. It could be a great many things, but I don't think it's meant to be understood, and that's what's great about his character. It's not just black and white. It's not clear for you. It's not a perfectly painted picture for you to see, this is what's in front of me. It's completely beyond that picture. Like, you really don't know what to understand, like what to take away from this film, because you don't know what's real. And I think that's what makes it more of a masterpiece. Like, it's not just how everything was beautifully placed together, it's that you don't know what's real and what's not. It's kind of like when you watch Inception. Like, is he still awake? Is he asleep? Like, we don't know. It doesn't really say. It's basically up to your own interpretation of what happened. But that's how this movie ends, and I thought it was great. It's just really hard to watch. Like I said, I'm not excited towards watching this film. It doesn't excite me at all. It's very cringy. It's very hard to sit through, and it's not because it's bad, because that was the entire purpose of this movie. It was meant to be disconcerting. It's meant to be cringy. Like, I was watching the film, and the way Arthur laughs, I just put myself in that situation. If someone's laughing like that next to me, like, I don't even know how to behave. Like, I just kind of want to get away from this guy. But yeah, I think it was a great movie, and it's not something, if I never watch it again, I'll be completely fine. And it's not because it was a bad movie. I said that about Godzilla vs. Kong, but that's because the movie's one-dimensional. I can watch it just strictly for those fight scenes, and that's it. I can never watch the movie again, and I'm completely fine. This one, I enjoyed the movie, but it's so depressing and it's so dark. There is no happiness throughout the entire film that it's just hard for me to sit through. And it's very cringy. I'd rather not spend my time watching a 2-hour cringe movie. But yeah, that is the thought on Joker. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please leave a comment, like, and subscribe, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.